When your father made that Barolo for the first time in 1947, was he just making a little bit of Barolo and selling other grapes, or were this his entire production? How did that work?
Dicevano nel 47 quando ha imbottigliato quel Barolo, ma vendeva l'intera produzione o vendeva uve, faceva un po' di vino così per sé?
No, my family is make all production make wine, but in 47 my father has only some hectares. I don't know well, but I think is 3 maximum 4 hectares. Yes, okay. It's small production, and the last part is Dolcetto, but in this time is very popular. Is very popular the Dolcetto. The Dolcetto is for the is not Barolo. Barolo, I think 3 hectare Dolcetto and 1 hectare Barolo about.
Okay, and I see listed on the website that you now currently have 14 hectares, which is about 34 acres. So
now I have 60 hectares.
60 hectares. Okay. Okay.
Is in Christ.
Okay.
Yes.
16.
My father died in 1989, and I have 7 hectares. Now I have 16 hectares.
Okay, and you have parcels in some of the finest vineyards around the Barolo zone, including not only Cannubi and Bussia, but also Castellero and then Villero.
Yes, is the last part is Bussia, but it expand more vineyards in Bussia. The other cru is small. Is my father bought the Cannubi. The first vineyards outside the Bussia is the Castellero. The Castellero in 1952. 20 years later, 1972, is bought the Cannubi, and the Villero arrived in 1995.
Okay, thank you. So the largest production of your Barolo, the Cru Barolo, is Bussia. Okay, and the smallest is what?
6 in total. In total now in Bussia, I have 10 hectares, and 6 hectares is for make Barolo, and other 4 is only the best exposition, the west, southwest or west exposition plant Nebbiolo for make Barolo Bussia. Other exposition, I have other grape, Barbera, in the low part of the hills, a little bit, Dolcetto, Freisa.
Okay. I had one gentleman email me a question about Villero, because I looked up at the different sites and the different facts about your wines and the vineyards. And of course you have the 2 clones of Nebbiolo, Miquette and Lampia, but with Villero you also have a little bit of Rosé clone. And can you tell us about that, and what percentage of that is in the wine?
Yeah, is normally in my vineyards is the blend the two clone, Miquette and Lampia. But in Villero there is 4-5% is Rosé, and the Villero is my older vineyards, but it's very old. It's not the other in Bussia or Cannubi is not young, but it's the medium. The medium age is 40-45 years old, but Villero is still 65 years old.
Wow, that's very old. Does that Rosé clone, is it a very small yield?
The Rosé is very important. It's very important especially for the perfume, but it's not the color. The color no, but the color is very, very light. But is the perfume is the smell. The smell is very important. Yes, 4-5% is perfect.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. That's the answer he was looking for. I don't know of too many other. Sandra, maybe you can help me as well. But I know of obviously Elvio Cogno in terms of using Rosé clone for Barolo. But do you know anyone else?
Rosé, sì. I think altogether maybe 10% in the whole production is still Rosé. Most of them were removed in the 90s, where the market was asking for particularly intense color Barolos.
Okay.
And so the Rosé was not performing that well. You know, now that we're more for the perfume and other elements rather than heat color, Rosé is still interesting. But I would say more or less 10% of the production is rosé.
Okay. And Claudia, what can you tell us about Cannubi? Has such a magical meaning to it. People who really don't know that much about Barolo, even people just for the first time, they know Cannubi. That's almost a stronger designation than even Barolo for certain people. So how many hectares do you have of Cannubi, and what can you tell us about that wine?
The Cannubi is very small. My father bought the vineyards in Cannubi in 1972. Is half hectares, exactly here 4,800 meter half hectares. It's very small. The production about is in 3,000 bottles, but it's very different. It's very near to Bussia, but it's my Bussia now is a large zone. Exactly, my vineyards stay in Bussia Sottana, and from Bussia Sottana vineyards arriving Cannubi is 1 kilometer, and yes, 1 kilometer. But it's two different soil. The in Cannubi is more, you compare the soil Cannubi with the soil de Bussia, the soil in Cannubi is more sand, it's more soft soil. And the wine is Cannubi is a fantastic wine, it's fantastic terroir. But the wine is a very elegant wine. If you compare my Cannubi with my Bussia.
And are the aromatics a little more expressive, a little more floral in Cannubi than they would be?
Yeah, it's more floral. It's more floral. It's more a little bit red fruit, but the smell is more in floral. Is the fiori appassiti, is roses.
Dry flowers.
Flowers, yes.
Do you normally harvest earlier in Cannubi than in Bussia? Normalmente vendevi prima Cannubi, prima Bussia?
No, it's the first is the Villero. The first when I started the harvest for the Nebbiolo, is the first vintage is the Villero. After is possible one part the Bussia, Cannubi, and return in Bussia. Finish in Bussia. Cannubi, Castellero, and finish in Bussia.
Okay. With
yes. The harvest is closed in 8 to 10 days.
Okay.
Excuse me. With the finished wines, in general, would you say that one wine, maybe Cannubi, maybe Villero, ages longer than maybe Bussia or Castellero, or does it depend on the particular vintage?
Come capacità di invecchiamento, se dipende più dall'annate o più da Cannubi, Bussia?
Is normally okay. The vintage is possible. It's possible the vintage, but normally is the Bussia aging more long time. Il Bussia invecchia meglio rispetto a un Cannubi.
So the Bussia ages better than the Cannubi.
Is more power, is more complex, and it's possible to have una vita più lunga.
Okay.
It has a longer shelf life.
Okay. Now I know you make a couple other Barolos, and I'll get to that in a minute. But your philosophy is very traditional. It's to use grandi botti and only Slavonia oak. See?
Yes, use it only Slavonia oak. Because the fermentation is the long time in fermentation. The time in fermentation is the same, but it's for making my Barolo, is my 4 cru, use at the same time in fermentation. It's a 40 day the fermentation is only spontaneous fermentation. I don't use a yeast or additive in fermentation. And after for aging, use it only large barrel, only Slavonia oak. I have a different size. Is 2,500 liters, 5,000 liters. Yes, and is my oak, my botti is not new. Is I have some my younger botti is 10 years old. After I have watered the 20, or I have some botti is bought my father.
Oh, really?
50 years old, and is work well.
Is it easy to keep the botti that are 50 years old? Is it easy to keep them clean?
Facile tenerle in ordine.
Is necessary. Yes, it's easy, but is my body I clean every year. Every year in December I move the wine is open, is the small door for entry inside, and use the sandpaper for clean every year. If you clean every year, it's not difficult.
Okay.
If you clean every 3-4 years, and there is more. Ci sono delle croste di tartrati che diventano alte e diventa difficile.
Yeah. So if you clean every 2-3 years, you have a thick layer of tartrates of deposits, and it's really hard. If you clean it every year, it's not a big problem.
Good, good. Now, he mentioned that for the Villero and the Cannubi and the Bussia, that the macerations are 40 days, which is longer than even people that use the traditional macerations are 25 to 30 days. So 40 days is definitely a longer time. That leads me to a question we have here and about maybe his most spectacular Barolo, if that's the right word. Certainly his most distinctive Barolo, 90 di, which means 90 days. So that it has a maceration of 90 days. Tell us all about this wine, because I've had it a couple times. Gracious enough to open it for me, and it's silky smooth. It's just remarkable. So, Claudio,
quindi la differenza tra gli altri è le particolarità del 90 giorni.
La differenza, is the difference is the 40 day. This is the classic time for make the Barolo. In the old time is example. My father or my grandfather is used more long time. Is 90 days is not my experiment. This is questi 90 giorni arrivano un po' dai ricordi che mio padre e mio nonno mi hanno trasmesso, queste lunghe macerazioni.
So the days is not just it's his father and grandparents.
Che differenza ti dà?
It's a
Sandro, I have to ask you to repeat.
Just right that.
Sandro, I have to ask you to repeat that. It kind of broke up a little bit, the volume.
Okay, so he said that it was not just his, fantasy to try this 90 days for fancy, but it's what his father and grandfather told him that decades ago it was normal to do the 90 days, 80 days, very, very long macerations for Barolo.
I would think. Go ahead.
The difference example. I make one part of the Bussia. My last part I use it 40-day maceration for make the regular vintage. After 3 years is the classic Barolo Bussia, and one part is very selected part use it the 90 days. The difference is 40 day is the fermentation. 40 day is the after the fermentation is more fruit, red fruit.
Yes.
Is go in 90 days is longer time in fermentation. You lose a little bit for the fruit, but is more the wine is more spicy, is more balsamic. Perdiamo un po' questa frutta, Sandro. Mi rivolgo a te perché il 90 giorni perde un po' questa frutta che ha il 40 giorni. Però diciamo si arricchisce molto di più con la balsamicità e le speziature. Questo è tipico dei vecchi Baroli, del vecchio stile dei Baroli.
So that was typical of the old style Barolos, being less fruity, but more with spicy notes, balsamic, like mint, eucalyptus notes. So this 90 days loses something in terms of fruit, compared to the 40 days, but has more complexity and much more spiciness.
Exactly.
Senza perdere tutto questo, senza perdere capacità di invecchiamento, perché invecchieranno molto molto bene in 90 giorni.
And also
it doesn't lose the aging capacity.
Aging potential.
Right.
Aging potential, not only more complexity, but also great aging potential for the 90 days.
Right. The tannins, if you compare the tannins, other question, the tannins, the 40 day or 90 day, the tannins, the 90 day is more soft, is more integrated, un tannino più integrato, is very integrated tannins, is silky, È un tannino più setoso.
Tannini più morbidi, sì?
Exactly. More silky, more smooth, and softer tannins with that.
So I think he answered this question, but it sounds to me, just and from what I know of the history of Barolo, and certainly with the climate being different back then, and the different vineyards, different way the vineyards were planted, it was probably much more necessary to have very long macerations back in the 40s and 50s, correct? Like this 90 days, much more than it would be today when it's a warmer climate and you get riper grapes. Is that correct?
Appunto, forse nel passato era più necessaria questa lunga macerazione per via del comunque un clima più fresco, quindi maturazioni meno complete, forse era più necessaria, era una necessità questa di fare lunghe macerazioni nel passato?
Sì, questo lo penso anch'io. Yes, I think, yes. Questo lo penso anch'io. In passato era forse più importante che non adesso. Però comunque anche adesso vediamo che queste lunghe macerazioni ti fanno veramente una differenza sul Barolo. Fanno veramente una grande differenza. Sia che nelle strutture.
So in the past, it was kind of necessary to do that for the reason you just explained. But even today, even if you can get great results with macerations, but the 90 days really makes a difference from the others in terms of complexity, silkiness, overall aging potential.
Yes, exactly. Let's talk a little bit about the changes he's had to make, both in the vineyards and in the cellar, over the last, let's say, 20 years with the climate change. What he still ages in Slavonian oak and still has long macerations, but what little subtle changes has he had to make?
Diceva se negli ultimi, diciamo, ventina d'anni con il riscaldamento globale hai dovuto adattare qualcosa nel vigneto o nella produzione del vino per adattarti a questi cambiamenti?
Yes. Is that in the last from 2000, no? Dal 2000 is arrived some years is a little bit warm. Is the work in the vineyards is changed a little bit, but example in the normal vintage is possible remove some leaf or the normal work in the vineyard. But in the warm vintage, no, it is very important not remove the leaf. Lasciare una parete fogliare molto ampia e molto protettiva, questo è molto importante nelle latte calde, cosa che una volta non succedeva.
So it's very important. The main difference is not so much in the winery, but in the vineyard management, particularly in canopy management, where you have to leave more leaves protecting from direct sunlight, protecting the bunches from direct sunlight. So especially in the hottest years, this element has the utmost importance.
Yeah. Yes, and in the soil is don't. Una volta diciamo amavano diciamo soprattutto diciamo durante l'estate smuovere anche un po' il terreno con zappature o erpici, cose che adesso invece non si fa più, si lascia soprattutto una bella parte erbacea che anche questa va a proteggere il terreno dal sole caldo.
So past also it was normal in the summer to work the soil near the rows, and so removing the grass, working the soil, that would remove a lot of water too. So, the grass don't work the soil in the summer at all. The grass helps to preserve the humidity and also protect the heating of the direct heating of the soil from the sun. So there's a kind of a protection for that. So that is something that has changed too.
Okay. There is one other Barolo that Claudio produces, a Classico or Normale, whatever term you want to use. Claudio, do the grapes for the classic Barolo, do they come a little bit from Cannubi and Villero, or are there other vineyards?
No, my classic Barolo is a singular vineyard. Is from Monforte, but is outside the Bussia. It's 2 kilometers from my winery, my house. Direction Monforte. Is a change the altitudine, the level C.
The height, the altitude.
Yeah,
Right.
Level C is 450 meters.
Very high, okay.
The singular vineyard is the east exposition, but is outside the Bussia, is in the white zone. C'è una zona bianca. It's possible make the Barolo, but no, it's outside the cru, or use the fantasy name. And
Okay.
the soil is different, but is the soil in this part is the sand is different, different type of the sand with the Bussia, different sand and some stone.
E nelle arenarie di Diano, giusto?
Sì, esatto.
So it's higher altitude, 450 meters
Yes.
of sea level, but also in a different formation. So the Bussia is almost entirely in the Marne di Sant'Agata Mars, while the other part where we make the Barolo, so classico, so called, is in the Arenarie di Diano, Diano sandstones, which are in the top part of Monforte and down to on the ridge between Monforte and Castiglione Falletto.
Okay, thank you.
And facing east also,
Right.
so a fresher location.
Okay. I have one question here from one of the attendees, and we can answer this question and also answer about vintages, recent vintages. This gentleman wants to know, Claudio, how do you compare your 2015 Barolo Classico with your 2016? And can you speak about those two vintages?
Differenze del Barolo.
Diceva, parlando del classico, tra il 2015 e il 2016.
Is 50.
Vai pure in italiano se vuoi.
Ok.
Italiano o inglese? Basta così.
Il 2015 diciamo è comunque un'annata leggermente un po' più caldina, mentre il 16 è molto classica. Quindi il 16 porterà dietro queste caratteristiche sempre di un vino ancora un po' chiuso, ancora un po' ristretto, come tutte le annate classiche, come del resto si portano anche dietro i cru, sono così. Vini che hanno bisogno di più tempo per l'evoluzione, mentre un 2015 io credo che se non adesso il prossimo anno si può bere una bella bottiglia. Hanno evoluzioni un po' più.
Two very different evolutions, so both good vintages, but 15 was much warmer, so the wines are much more ready to drink. Probably the next year they will be already fully enjoyable, while the 16, like more classic vintages, the evolution is a bit slower, so will take a bit longer to get to the peak, as well as all the crus that he makes compared to the Barolo Classico, they tend to a bit more time to peak.
Of course.
So basically the difference between 15 and 16, that's in general difference for all Barolos. Yeah, 15 definitely more ready to drink, 16 more classic.
Yes, I would agree, and certainly they have greater aging potential. And yet, tasting of many of these wines, and speaking, for example, 2 weeks ago with Pietro Raffi, he says, don't expect these big monster wines in 2016. They're very drinkable. And I think that's the charm and some of the outstanding quality of these 16 Barolos is that while they will age for a long time, they're very, very drinkable right now.
Sì, diceva che comunque dotati di una grande bevibilità il 2016 per un grande equilibrio.
Yes, it's very. Sì, sono abbastanza equilibrati. Hanno l'evoluzione un po' più lenta. The evolution is a little below. If you compare the evolution of the 16 with the 15 or the 11, no, it's the warm vintage. The warm vintage normally the evolution is more fast, un po' più veloce.
Right. Let's go back. I have a couple more questions here. I appreciate these. Elad asks, what are the age of the vineyards that are used for the classic, or the Barolo Normale? How old are those vines?
Diceva l'età dei vigneti del classico, diciamo, del Barolo standard rispetto a agli altri.
Is the young vineyards, is 22 years old. 22 anni.
22 years old vines for the Barolo, standard Barolo.
I'm sorry, that broke up a little bit. How many years?
22 years old.
22 years old. Okay,
For
thank
the
you.
standard Barolo.
From Jung, he says, Buonasera, Claudio, Tome Sandro. And he says to Claudio, I won't be seeing you in Malaysia this year, but it was nice meeting you last May. And his question is, do you think that the sun-exposed MGA, and that's a term I think most of you know, it's a term used in Barolo and Barbaresco for the individual sites. Do you think that the sun-exposed MGA in the past could suffer and become too warm in hotter vintages? Of course, most of them are south-facing, so they're getting more sun. Do you think that the less regarded cooler sites at slightly lower elevations can ripen Nebbiolo in a better way now? It's a long question, but did you get all that, Sandro?
Chiedevano se in generale pensi che quelle che una volta erano le grandi esposizioni sud-sud-ovest, quindi più calde, possono avere qualche difficoltà in queste annate più calde e se invece siano favorite magari esposizioni più fresche. O se invece quelle che erano grandi una volta continuano a rimanere eccellenti anche adesso.
Quelle grandi continuano sempre a rimanere grandi, secondo me, anche con il caldo. Quindi se una vigna gestita bene rimane sempre un grande cru, rimarrà sempre un grande cru. Diciamo che nelle zone diciamo un po' meno esposte, diciamo che in queste annate calde diciamo sono più favorite. Quindi anche in queste zone si riesce a fare anche degli ottimi baroli, anche se le zone meno esposte. Però io sono convinto che le grandi zone sono sempre grandi zone.
So it's basically the other way around. So the great exposures that were great in the past are still great today, provided that you do the correct canopy management. So adjusting to the vintage, of course. The point is that even the ones that were not the best or like second best in the past, now with warmer years can be comparable to the best ones.
Okay.
But the best ones remain so.
Will always be the best.
Provided that you give a good canopy management.
Right. There's a reason these vineyards have been designated ranked as the best. It's not just because they get good ripening, it's because of the characteristics of the soil and the characteristics that comes out of the
I grandi cru sono sempre favoriti anche perché sono grandi cru proprio perché abbiamo un territorio particolare, sia per terreno e mineralità. Cioè, quindi cose che magari nelle altre zone il caldo può aiutare a produrre dei vini migliori, ma non hanno, cioè, tutto parte dal territorio. Questo non dobbiamo mai dimenticarlo.
So he said that, yeah, the climate can help in the not so top locations, but the great locations have the right kind of soil, the right texture, the right minerals, water retention and everything. So all the factors that make them great both in the warm or colder vintages.
Okay. Claudio, when I visited last year with Sandro, we tasted several wines out of the barrel, and that included 2017 and 2018, which are two very, very different years. What can you tell me about those vintages and how are they tasting out now?
Che abbiamo assaggiato dalla botte l'anno scorso, il 17 e il 18, e come un anno dopo che li abbiamo assaggiati noi, come li trovi, il 17 e il 18?
Very well, molto bene, very well. No,
okay.
The 17 is the evolution. The 17 is irregular for the warm vintage. Is a little bit fast evolution. Is my 17 I am bottling in the end of this year, in December or next year in January. I am bottling the 17, and I think after I'm bottling in 2 years is ready for drink. This is normal. Is correct for the warm vintage. 18 is classic. Now is fruit, is a little bit vinoso, no? Ancora un po' vinoso. Is the close, is a little bit close, but his devolution is good. It's good. And
So somehow comparable to the 15 and 16. So 17 warmer like 15 and 18 more like 16.
Yes, this 17 is you compare is very near. I think is the 11, 12.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's go ahead. It's a little. Prego.
Sorry.
Prego.
No, and 18 is more similar other classic vintage. No 16. 16 I think is in the last decade, in the decade 10, 20, I think is 16 is for me. This is my opinion. Is the best. This is the best vintage in this decade. 18 is possible. 2008, 2000. Yes, 2009.
I especially love 2008. So yeah, and from many producers. So, and how about 2019? I know that the wines are very young, but what was that growing season like? 2019.
Del 2019 chiedeva com'è andata la stagione.
2019 is a fantastic vintage. Now is for talk to the evolution is a little bit difficult. Is too young. Io credo che comunque sarà un'ottima annata. Comunque molto classica. It's very classic. Is going harvest in the normal time. Is finish the time. Finish the harvest time in the 20 October, and I think is other classic vintage.
Very classic. That's a classic time for the harvest of Nebbiolo for Barolo around the second decade of October. So,
okay. Yeah. Sandra, I have one more important question, but there must be a question or two you want to ask. We have about 7 or 8 minutes left. Why don't you ask Claudio some questions that you have, if you have any?
Well, first question. Let's keep from the Barolo point. I am very fond of a grape variety that's not very well known outside of Piemonte, which is called Freisa. But to us, it's very, very traditional, especially in the area around Torino. That was always been the most common wine, and it was way more common in the Langhe in the past than today. And Claudio is one of the few producers that still make this local autochthonous grape variety called Freisa, and in a very particular way. So I would like to ask Claudio about his Freisa, what are the characteristics and when he started producing that. Claudio, chiedevo del Freisa invece, no? Di cui ti dicevo era un tempo molto tipico, adesso siete pochi produttori in Langhe a fare il Freisa, ma raccontaci un po' del tuo Freisa, delle particolarità che ha.
Freisa is very. La Freisa è un altro di quei vigneti che diciamo sono storici per la Langa. Diciamo si è un po' persa la Freisa. Io mi ricordo 30 anni fa era molto popolare. Io credo che il 70-l'80% delle cantine produceva questo vino. Adesso saremo rimasti in 7, 8, 10, esattamente.
So let's go back like 30 years ago, probably 80% of the wineries in the Barolo region were producing also Freisa, and today it's maybe 10 or 8 of them. And Claudio and Giacomo Fenocchio is one of them. E la tua Freisa come la produci? Che caratteristiche ha?
The production of the Freisa is used the same. A short time in maturation is 10-12 days, just the alcoholic fermentation. Finish the sugar, is separate the wine and the skin, and after the wine aging 1 year, 6 months in tank still and 6 months in botti in Slavonia. The wine, the Freisa is a little bit rustic wine. si è persa un po' diciamo, la Freisa anche per questa sua caratteristica che si porta dietro, questa sua rusticità, cioè questo tannino un po' ruvido, questa acidità un po' scontrosa, e molti non amano, ma ho visto che diciamo, si è persa un po' anche per questo. Negli ultimi anni sta ritornando un po', diciamo.
Forse con il cambiamento climatico riusciamo ad avere vini più equilibrati,
Sì,
anche con rese minori
questo,
magari.
questo è anche vero, questo è anche vero.
So one of the reasons why Freisa is not that common anymore is probably that the acidity is quite harsh. It's not just higher, but kind of a harsh acidity. Also, the tannins are a bit harder than the ones that you find in Barolo. But also, that was probably due to a different way of producing Freisa that we had 30 years ago, with very high yields and different ways of producing and aging the wine. So today, with warmer vintages and with a different approach to the vineyard management and winemaking process, the Freisa can give great results and a very good balance in its structure, tannins, acidity. E fai anche un Freisa, tra l'altro, in una versione diversa anche?
Sì, ma questo è per giocare un po'. Yeah, yes, a little bit. Is 1,000 bottles is sparkling.
He also does a metodo classico? Or?
No, it's not
No?
metodo classico. It's metodo Charmat, but is a stay long time contact the yeast. In yes, 6 months. Quindi rimane in autoclave per 6 mesi. Non è uno Charmat
lungo.
non è un prosecco.
He also does a different kind of Freisa, so the still red wine, but also a sparkling wine made with the Charmat method, with a long Charmat. It's like 6 months, not like Prosecco. With it's a rose.
Okay, we have about 2 or 3 minutes left, so I hope Claudio's screen is okay. That's kind of frozen up here a little bit, but I wanted to ask Claudio about, there's been so much attention.
It's difficult.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The dolcetto is very important for the local people, for the Piedmont, for the some part, the Lombardy. In this part is very popular. For the export, yes, a little bit, some bottle, but dobbiamo ricordarci che il dolcetto è un vino da tavola, cioè quindi è un vino che si può produrre, è un vino da tavola che poi ogni regione ha il suo vino da tavola. Se andiamo in Toscana, allora avranno i suoi Chianti, avranno i suoi rossi, molto semplici, come la Francia, come tutto quanto. Quindi il dolcetto che diventa in auge non lo so fino a che punto.
But you have a great fan in Denmark. I could see Annette. I can't see the name anymore. But you have un grande fan del dolcetto in Danimarca. So he was saying that dolcetto is definitely more of a local market. Is very common out here in Piemonte, but it says like many other, let's say, simple everyday wines. There are many regions that have their own everyday wines.
Of course.
And so the competition with that would be really, really hard for the dolcetto.
Okay.
But still, we have people that love it and would love to see it more and more.
I'm one of them, as I know. The dolcetto I tried for 2018 have been beautiful.
Diceva che anche Tom è un fan del dolcetto.
Allora,
we should promote it better.
I always said it needs a public relations firm to promote it, yes, and I'd be willing to head that. So allora, ho un'altra domanda. Claudio, there's been so much attention paid to Barolo from the press and from many consumers as well, and sommeliers and wine buyers, the last 10, 15 years. It's a string of consecutive great vintages. There's, of course, I think the fascination with the single vineyard, the MGA Barolo, and then with the UNESCO, heritage coming to the Langhe. There's been a lot more attention paid to Barolo. How would you compare Barolo and its quality and its image to something like one of my favorite types of wine, the Grand Cru Burgundy? And do you think it will ever reach that level of image and praise.
Diceva appunto che negli ultimi 15-20 anni c'è stata una grande attenzione della stampa sul Barolo, soprattutto poi con le MGA ha ancora aumentato il suo prestigio, il suo riconoscimento internazionale. Pensi che sia ormai arrivato a un livello di notorietà, di fama, di prestigio comparabile ai Grand Cru della Borgogna? O pensi che sia una cosa diversa?
Sì, diciamo che la percezione che io ho è che comunque il Barolo, diciamo, è arrivato sicuramente su un ottimo livello. Dire che è arrivato come la Francia, come la Borgogna, forse ancora no. Io credo che la Borgogna è sempre la grande Borgogna, cioè, quindi forse la Borgogna, diciamo, rispetto a noi, rispetto all'MGA, diciamo, è più precisa, ha delle menzioni, ha dei cru molto più precisi che non quello che abbiamo noi in zona Barolo.
E anche, diciamo, sono quasi 150 anni che sono stati individuati e quindi hanno mangiato. So it says that Barolo has a really great recognition around the world, great prestige. It's hard to compare it to Burgundy, also because it's true, with the MGA have been important for the recognition of Barolo, but they became official like 10 years ago.
Exactly.
While in Burgundy, it's like 150 years. So also the fact that there are many Grand Cru that have become an icon, but it took them also 150 years to get that. So Barolo on that side is much younger.
Okay. That does about that. I'll try that again. That about does it for this webinar. So first, I want to thank the participants. We had a nice group of participants, and I especially want to thank you for hanging in there. Some of you tuned in early. We had a little technical problem, but we got it all worked out. We're all positive people here, so we knew it would work out. So, and I've become a little bit more mellow, so I don't worry about these things. But I especially, and we didn't get that many questions this time, but I think it's because people were fascinated by listening to two great individuals who are great speakers and have a lot of passion. Sandra Minella, grazie a tutti. Claudio, grazie mille. E piacere. Arrivederci.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for and I wait you in Telanga.
Okay.
And all the participants.
Quando le cose saranno migliori.
Okay.
Okay.
Io spero molto
waiting
presto.
for you when the times will be better, waiting for all of you here in the Langhe.
Wonderful.
Grazie, Tom. Grazie per
thank you, Tom.
l'interesse.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye.